Hello and welcome to another Mr. Carter Science Special. In this video, we'll be discussing the ethics of genetic technology. If you take a look at this picture here, this picture comes from a famous scene in the first Jurassic Park movie. The scientists have landed on the island, they've just seen dinosaurs for the very first time, and they are discussing the ethics of the science and the technology that allow the dinosaurs to be cloned. Now, of course, this is fictional. Dinosaurs have not been cloned and not been recreated and brought back from extinction. However, there is one particular quote which stands out in this scene. The scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. Now, this, of course, is a concern with all branches of science. Scientists are too often preoccupied with thinking about can we do things, but there must be some kind of check and balance, and an organisation that needs to force scientists to stop and slow down and think, should we be doing things? In the UK, that organisation is called HEFA, HFEA, Human Fertilisation Embryology Authority. And they are the organisation which you must apply to and who will give permissions for whether or not you may carry out research in a particular area. It is that organisation which is going to think about the ethics of whether you should be allowed to study and research a particular thing. So there are many benefits of genetic engineering and genetic research. Genetic research and gene therapy have yet to find a cure for inherited diseases. Transferring genes into every cell of a human body, or even just every cell in an organ, is very, very difficult, if not impossible, when you consider just the sheer number of cells you're dealing with in the trillions. But transferring genes into human embryos is possible. But it is considered to be highly unethical to transfer a gene into a human embryo and create what could be called a designer baby. So if we're discussing the benefits and risks associated with genetic engineering in animals and in particular humans, the arguments are less clear. But the benefits of genetic engineering in plants is more clear, and it has fewer ethical concerns. However, the long-term impact on the environment is still unclear when we are allowing these genetically engineered plants to grow in the normal natural environments. So we're going to spend some time looking at the benefits of genetic engineering for both agriculture, medicine and humans. So there are many benefits in agriculture, as we've already said. Genetic engineering has led to an improvement in growth rates, an increase in yields, so the food values of each crop can be increased. We can have more food and we can feed our ever-growing human population. Crops are designed to grow well in harsh environments, so we can actually increase the amount of land that we can use for agriculture by using genetic engineering to allow crops to grow in drier environments, hotter environments, or indeed colder environments. Crops have been engineered to produce their own pesticides or to be resistant to herbicides. So that means that we can spray an area of land with a herbicide and we can kill all the weeds that would compete with our crop plant. However, the crop plant would be unharmed. Or indeed, we could reduce costs by not needing to spray a field with pesticides because the plants have been genetically engineered to produce their own pesticides. There are also many benefits in medicine of using genetic technologies. For example, genetically modified bacteria and fungi can produce human proteins such as insulin or the human growth hormone. Genetically modified mice can mimic human diseases and therefore be used to help develop cures for diseases, all of which I think you would agree would be a benefit to humanity. But of course there are negatives, there are concerns about genetic engineering as well. In plants, the long-term effects are unknown. For example, insects may become pesticide resistant if they eat a diet of pesticide resistant plants. There are concerns over the effect of eating genetically modified DNA on human health. Although humans do have enzymes that break down DNA during digestion, so this shouldn't be an issue. Genes from genetically modified plants might spread into the wild populations, and this would reduce our genetic variety, which, as we've said previously on other videos, would lead the population to be vulnerable to diseases and environmental change. Now, originally, genetically modified crops were infertile, which meant farmers had to buy new seeds each year from a company that produced them. This became an increasing problem for poor farmers in the world who were becoming reliant on these large agricultural companies who were providing the seeds. And many people were concerned about the spread of these infertility genes to the wild populations, which might reduce the chance of normal non-genetically modified crops to be able to reproduce and produce seeds that we can use to grow the crops in the following years. Of course, there are also concerns about genetic engineering in humans. People may want to manipulate the genes of future children to make certain that their children are born healthy. But people may also choose to have designer children with particular characteristics, such as a high intelligence or good looks. And it's this kind of research which is banned in almost every country in the world, and organisations like HEFA will not allow research to be carried out into designer human babies due to the ethical concerns. I hope you've enjoyed this short video on the ethics of genetic technology. There are, of course, many other issues that could be raised, discussed and debated. Feel free to add your own thoughts and your own opinions in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.